between trains and barking dogs, because there's a bunch of squirrels outside, I'm never going to get this podcast recorded. And you're going to be like, it's Friday at 7 a.m. Where is episode 3? And I'm going to be like, I'm still recording it because nobody will shut it down. It's a little like it's never going to end. Like, I was like, okay, everybody's calm. It's time. I sat down, I got my phone out, and then the train started. And then the dog started barking at something while the train was going by, and I was like, okay, well, episode 3, never gonna happen. So while I'm sitting here with my dog staring at me, I thought, now's the perfect time to tell you a little bit about Anchor. If you haven't heard of Anchor, which is what I'm using to podcast with, it is the easiest way to make a podcast because the best part is it's free. And it's never going to charge you anything. When I say free, I mean free. There's super awesome tools that help you record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer, which is amazing because I always think of the best stuff when I'm not at home. So I use my phone probably more than I do my computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and so many more places. Basically, anywhere you listen to a podcast. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, which is the best part about it. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one simple place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So if you're still in quarantine, which you should be, like if you're listening to this up to date, but I guess if you're listening later, you might not be. But if you are up to date and listening to this as it comes out, you're still in quarantine. And you're probably like the rest of us that have hopped on the Tiger King bandwagon. And I know a few people haven't, like my friend Miranda hasn't. My friend Brittany said she won't. And I'm really desperately trying to talk her into this. So Brittany, if you're listening, please do it for the sake of the podcast. Just do it for the sake of the podcast. But if you have watched it, then you're going to totally understand this podcast. If you haven't, I'm not going to spoil anything, so you can still listen. But I just feel like I need to talk about it because we watched it, I don't know, a few days ago on I think maybe Saturday or Friday. I don't know. We watched it Friday. And we literally stayed up until 2 a.m. watching it because we could not stop. It's like one of those things where you're watching it and you're like, it can't get any crazier than this, right? Like this can't get any worse. And then they're like, hey, hang on a second. Let me show you something else. And then you're like, okay, like it can't, like this has to be it. And then they're like, no, honey, it's going to get a little worse. And then it just does this for 7 episodes. The whole time you're like, oh my God, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then they're like, oh no, sweet baby, it's going to get worse. And you're just like, how does this exist? How does this happen? What's going on? Or is this real? Like you have so many feelings. You just have so many feelings while you're watching it. And then you're like, well, now I can't stop. You know, I have come this far. I can't give up. And you have to see it through. And you have to do it. And it is the craziest ride of your lifetime, but it is so worth it. So let's talk about Tiger King. Okay, so like I said, it's a 7-part series. It's on Netflix. So if you have Netflix and you haven't watched it, go run and watch it right now. I will wait for you, okay? So go run and watch it and then come back and we will be here. But it's about a guy named Joe Exotic, which that's not his real name, but he's got like this crazy last name that I can't pronounce, so I'm not even going to try, but just Google it. You can find out. His name's Joe Exotic. It says he's a gun-toting operator of an Oklahoma big cat park, and he's been accused of hiring someone to murder his chief rival, Carole Baskin. And you're like, oh, okay, like a like a murder documentary or just like a documentary. And then you're like, oh my God, this is way more than what I thought it was going to be. So he owns a tiger zoo, which he's got a bunch of other animals there or whatever. And so he owns the Tiger Zoo, and that Carol Baskin lady she owns what she calls a sanctuary. But if you look at it, like the way it was portrayed, which I don't live there, I don't know, like don't come after me, but it looks like the same thing. And I don't know like if they were trying to make it look the same or not, but it did look very similar. I mean, you both have tigers in cages, so I don't know why one hates the other one, but whatever. You got to do what you got to do, I guess. So, you meet him, and he is something else, let me tell you. But you're like, I really like this guy. Like, at first you're like, oh my God, I really like this guy. He's cool. He cares for his sweet babies, and, and then you meet Carol, and you're like, ew, because that's his rival, and at first you like Joe, and you're like, ew, Carol. I mean, she does say when she does her live show, she's always like, hello, you cool cats and kittens. And if that doesn't make you not like her, then I don't know what does. But as soon as she said it, I was like, no, shut it down. Don't ever say that again. She's always riding her bike. She's always got a flower crown on. And she always says, hello, cool cats and kittens, or what's up, you cool cats and kittens. And that just did it for me. Like I'm all about exercise and flower crowns, but the cool cats and kittens thing just really shut it down. Anyway, they don't like each other. She thinks he shouldn't have this zoo, and he's like, you know what? Don't worry about what I'm doing. So they have a rival. He is very, I guess we'll say exotic, because that's what he calls himself. So he's very exotic. He's very out there. He just is like this free-spirited, I'm gonna do what I want kind of guy. And it works, let me tell you, because he's got the fashion, he's got it all, and he's a country singer. And so you're like, oh my God, he's so good. And then I found out that that's not really him singing. And I was like, this ruined my life. This is like a Milli Vanilli thing, right? So it's not really him. I looked it up. I can't find the article, of course, now, but I looked it up, and it was like, these two people that are singing. Okay, here it is. They are written and performed by musicians Vince Johnson and Danny Clinton. It says Joe just sang quietly over some of them. So, like, they're singing, and he's singing quietly over them like this, I guess. And this is on BuzzFeed. So this is just a 16 Tiger facts that we're going to talk about. So he doesn't sing. He doesn't sing. And like when you're watching it, you're like, oh my God, he's so good. Blah, blah, blah. And then BuzzFeed comes out and they're like, yeah, he doesn't sing. And so you're like, no, it's really him. You can't lie to me. Okay. So he's a country music singer, owns a zoo, hates Carol Baskin. I'm like, there's so much in this show that's like I should have written it all down. Oh, he's got a husband, but it's not like a legal husband, but they say that they're husbands, right? And he's covered in a bunch of tattoos that's like property of Joe. It's got Joe's name on him, privately owned by Joe Exotic, like all this stuff, like name all over him, right? So then this other guy shows up, and he's like this good-looking California guy, and then Joe's like, ooh, I'm down with him. Are you straight? And he's like, yeah. And then he asks him this real weird question, and he's like, well, I guess you're not that straight. So then him and John, which is his other husband, I should have said that, marry Travis. So they're like a threesome married, a throuple. Well, they're a throuple, right? But it's not legal. They just get married in these super fun outfits, and it's wonderful, and you have to envision it, right? You have to watch it. So they get married. He's happy as a clam. So, like, I can't, it's just such a wonderful show. So Joe still really hates Carol, and he's making, a reality show. There's some guy, I can't remember his name, that's making his reality show. And then Joe also does videos that he puts, I guess, on YouTube, which I haven't even looked them up. I don't know why. I think I've just been so, like, lost in Tiger King ever since we watched it that I just haven't looked it up. But he puts them all on YouTube. And they're very crazy. Like, he's, like, killing her in some of them. I mean, it's really crazy. And he just doesn't care because he's Joe Exotic and he hates her, right? So then you start to learn a little bit more about Carol, and then you find out that they think that Carol killed her husband. So not only is there tiger anger, thruples, country music, a bunch of animals, tattoos, there's also murder, right? So you have all this stuff going on, and you're like, oh my God, did she kill her husband? And they're like, you need to look under the sewer tank or whatever it is, septic tank, I can't remember, but you need to go under there. And then they said that maybe she fed her husband to the tigers, right? So you're like, oh my God, there's so much happening. This can't get any wilder. And then guess what? He decides he's going to run for political office. First, he was going to run for the president, and then he was going to run for, like, political office in his town. I can't remember what it was. He obviously didn't win, but he got, like, 19% of the votes, right? And so, like, he was handing out condoms with his face on it, and he was like, if you don't vote for me, you're screwed. And I don't know about you, but I think that's hilarious. And I'm like, I probably don't want him to be my governor, but if he was just like a Parks and Rec kind of guy, I mean, to go for it. He's got a zoo. He could probably own a park, right? Oh my gosh. So anyway, he does that. He doesn't win. He's like, whatever, screw Carol. I'm still the best. And so, I mean, it's just such a wild ride. And I know that I am forgetting so much stuff, but it's like, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen, right? So how can you talk about everything in this show because it's just the craziest thing, right? So he's married to the 3 guys, still hates Carol, so a shed burns down where all of the tapes for his reality show were, and they are like, oh, Carol, she did it because Joe was out of town. But then they're like, maybe Joe set it up to make it look like Carol did it because that's the kind of people that they are. And Joe's like, I didn't do that. And they're like, well, maybe you did. And he's like, no, I didn't, I swear. So we still don't know who burnt the shed. We don't know who burnt the shed. We don't know who killed Carol's husband. We don't know anything, right? So there's murder. It's a mystery. It's like a thriller. Like, it's a comedy. There's action. There's tigers. There's lions. There's, anything. If you have ever watched TV in your lifetime, this probably has something for you because it's just the wildest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Oh, and then there is something about, they talk about Scarface because at the beginning they talk about this guy that used to smuggle drugs and snakes or something. And I'm like, again, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I'm telling you, it's the craziest. And, it's about the Tiger King. You really don't see the animals that much because they're you're so wrapped up in the lives of these people and the craziness of of Joe and Carol. And then there's another guy named Doc Antle who's like got something to do with it but kind of doesn't have anything to do with it. And then you meet these other people that, what is his name? Jeff Locke, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but he was going to pay the other guy, I think it's like Austin or something, I can't remember, Alan, Austin, something like that, starts with an A. He's going to pay that guy to kill Carol, and they were like, you got to do it while she's on her bike, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, I'll do that, but you got to give me $5,000. And then apparently Joe only gave him $3,000. And so then Austin, Allen, whatever, was like, well, I'm not going to kill her because you didn't give me the rest of my money. So they didn't kill Carol, but then they found out that he was going to have somebody kill Carol, and then he got arrested, and now he's in jail. Oh, and before all that, he got married to someone else because a bunch of crazy stuff happens between him and his husbands that I'm not going to tell you about because you really have to watch it. And now he's married to some other young person that he met online. It's a wild ride. I feel like I'm just like, oh my gosh. It is honestly the craziest thing. It's the craziest thing. It is so crazy. Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. That's what it's called. That doesn't even begin to like start it. The Murder, Mayhem, Madness. weddings, funerals, uh, money, tigers, like fashion, politics. Like, there's so much going on. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Craziest thing I have ever seen. So, as you know, he's in jail because he got arrested for, they had like a bunch of stuff on him, but I think the main thing was that he was going to try to kill Carol or whatever. So a lot of people are mad because they're like, I was portrayed really horribly in this show. But apparently Joe Exotic is like super pumped about the show. And I guess that the co-director, I'm reading it off of another BuzzFeed article. So really, if you just want to look any of this up, just go to BuzzFeed. That's literally where I'm looking everything up. It said that he talked to him while he was in jail after the documentary premiered, and that Joe is tickled pink by the reaction. I mean, honestly, it's just the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, I'm talking so fast in this podcast, I feel like, because I'm just like, there's so much and I don't know what to do. So, I mean, like I said, I haven't spoiled anything. It's just the crazy, and you have to watch it, right? So, they talk about Carole Baskin's husband because he disappeared. Like, we found his van at the airport and then he's just gone, right? And there's so much more detail about it. I feel like I should have named this. You're just going to have to watch it instead of the title that I did pick. But maybe I'll go back and change it or like add it to the end or something, right? So they talk about Don, which was Carol's husband, and his disappearance. And so apparently ever since the documentary came out like last week or 2 weeks ago, it says that I'm reading this off of a CNN article. It says they are receiving new tips every day. Since the documentary came out, they've been receiving about 6 tips a day related to this case, and they are looking into each one thoroughly. And I'm like, oh my God. It says none of the tips so far have been credible, obviously, because people are probably like, oh, just calling and Carol did it and look under the septic tank or whatever it was. But, maybe they'll get a real one. Like, isn't that crazy too? That's the craziest part to me, I think, is that there's like an actual cold case trapped in this documentary. There's an actual cold case about someone, and like maybe now you'll finally figure out who did it, right? I mean, that would be crazy pants. It'd be like the Golden State Killer all over again, right? Oh my God, it would be so cool. So of course I've looked up everything I could about it. I'm like, I need to know everything about it because if it's true crime, I need to know. So I've Googled it. A lot of people do think that Carole Baskin did it. It says on here that she would not take a lie detector test. She didn't want to do that. They were like, some people said that maybe she put him in a meat grinder. Some people said maybe she fed him to the tigers. Some people said he's under the septic tank. And then of course she's like, he just left. He left me. He's gone. And everybody's like, I don't know. Because again, it's a cold case. We don't know. What do we know? We know nothing. So it says that if you do know anything about it, to contact this police department or whatever. Let's see. Sheriff Chad Chronister. I don't know if that's right. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department is who you need to contact if you know anything legible, not just calling to be crazy pants, right? Like, don't do it. So they're also wanting to do like a TV movie about it, and they're like, who would you want cast to be Joe Exotic? And I'm like, no one could play him. Like, no one who could do it justice, because if you've watched it, there's just no way. Like, I've seen people want David Spade, people want Danny McBride, and I'm like, I honestly have no idea who I would pick, because I can't stop thinking about Joe Exotic in real life that I don't I don't think I will be able to watch anybody else be him, because he is such a one-of-a-kind person. It's crazy pants. It's crazy. But apparently also there's going to be, they want to be a second one. There may be a second one because they have plenty of material for a season 2, and because, he's not dead. He's just in jail. So it's not like they can't talk to him and still get his input while they're still talking to Jeff and Carol and Alan or whatever his name is. It's freaking crazy. And you need to watch it. I'm just telling you now. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. If you have watched it, you know that my reaction is legible. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's just so crazy. It's just so wild. It's the best way to spend your quarantine. And if you're not quarantined, it's the best way to spend 7 hours of your life, because it's just wild. Like I said, there's so much just murder and fashion and mystery and tigers and thruples and funerals and I can't even think of anything else. Anger and sadness and happiness and zoos and blah, 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 blah. Like, just do it. Just watch it. Because honestly, the best thing that's came out of this are the freaking memes, right? Like, I'm people that are clever enough to make memes, I need to be their friend. Because I'm not clever enough to make memes. So I need to be friends with people who can make them, because it is the best thing to come out of them. So far, my favorite one is where they're like talking about, because something happens to a worker at his zoo. Cash, don't be growling at people. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's sitting on the couch and he's like, "Mmm." Don't do it, bro. Don't do it. Don't even do it. Come here. You want to be on the podcast? You want to talk to people? He's just looking at me like, what? Anyway, like I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by a tiny baby dog. Something happens to a worker there. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because again, if you haven't watched it, you need to. And if you have, you know what I'm talking about. So he calls the ambulance people and whatever, and he's like, you got to get here now. But he also has an EMT jacket of his own. And there's one that's like, the best thing about the show is when he puts on an EMT jacket of his own. The drip never stops. And it's my favorite one, because like, I have so many questions. Why do you have it? Why is that just readily available to you? Why do you feel like you need to put it on? Because you aren't an EMT. So what are you doing? And then he goes into the gift shop and tells the people what happened. And it's just so, oh my God, it's just the best. I just can't believe it's real. Like, that's why I think I'm just like so bumfuzzled, is because it's just, how is this real? How is any of this real? And like I just think about like his life compared to mine. Like, I have nothing like that, like I don't own a tiger. I don't have fashion like he does. I don't own a zoo. I'm not a country singer over other people's music. Maybe I need to step my game up, like maybe apparently tigers are only $2,000. So I'm just trying to figure out why I haven't had one before. If they're that cheap. I mean, we have a fenced in yard. I feel like it's fine. I'm just kidding. But really, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, Tiger King on Netflix. 10 out of 10 recommend. And if you've already watched it, oh my God, please, like, find me on social media, any of them, or email me and just be like, here's all my thoughts about this, because I need to know what other people think. Besides just me and my husband and my friends, like, because we have so many feelings. We literally have a group chat going because we can't stop talking about it. Like, that's how wild it is. And Brittany, if you're still listening, you have to freaking watch it, bro. It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. So now we're like, what's next? You know, like, we have nothing. What do we do? Where do we go from here? Nothing's going to top this. We've already watched Don't F with Cats. So I don't know. I don't know where to go from here. I've got nothing. Like last night we were like, what are we going to watch now? And my husband was like, nothing's going to amount to it, so just put something on. And I was like, well, okay. So we turned on Parks and Rec for the 5,000th time, because what else are we going to watch? Nothing's going to top Joe Exotic. Nothing's going to be better than Tiger King. He was like, we should just watch it again. I'm like, we probably need to. There's probably so many things that I missed, that we probably need to watch it at least 3 or 4 more times. And then we need to get on YouTube and watch all of his music videos and all of his own interviews he did, or whatever they are. Like, I feel like we could keep this going for a really long time. And since we're going to be in quarantine forever, we have plenty of time to watch everything and really get to know Joe Exotic and just relish in his wonderfulness, because he's pretty entertaining. Like, he was on the right path of entertainment, because I would watch him. I mean, he's entertaining to me. So now I don't know where we're going to go from here. I don't know. If you have any recommendations, please send them on over. Email me, tell me what to watch next, because we don't know. We don't have a clue. So email me at youmeandbenny@gmail.com and tell me what to watch next, because we've got nothing. Nothing's going to top Joe Exotic. Nothing. And I guess on that note, I will somberly say goodbye. Until next Friday. Don't forget, you can find us on all the social medias at You, Me, and Benny. You can also sponsor our podcast by going to Anchor and clicking the little support button, and that would be awesome if you want to do that, and we'll shout you out on podcasts if you're a supporter of our podcast. And yeah, just let me know some recommendations, because I have nothing. Thanks for listening, and I will bark at you later. Bye-bye.